milliseconds too late, the SSA Rocket League podcast. I'm your host, Greybeard. Winter Split, Regional number 2, coming up in a couple of days. And with me to chat about the groups, the predictions, what we can expect. Are there any surprises around the corner is Muzz. So Muzz, you've had a quick squiz at the groups. What's your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, Ryan, how you doing? Yeah, looking good. It's kind of for me, some of the groups obviously feel quite familiar. We were quickly chatting about Group D, and Group D is looking very similar to Regional 1, except now Barney and his dinosaurs has jumped in on that group where I think they used to have Unity there. Or it was like OFA or someone like that. And now, Apex, DNMK, and Team Espionage get to play each other again. So that's going to be fun.
Well, let's quickly look before we get into some detail. Who's not there from the last region? And looking over, it looks like OFA didn't make it through qualifiers. One of our 2 Reunion Island teams, which is unfortunate. Which means in this regional we're only going to have one non-South African team, which is PWB, who impressed and are quite eager to do a bit more. And then Bot Gaming. What do you think about Bot Gaming, Muzz?
Yeah, I mean that's really just kind of the revamp of what we saw out of retirement. And I know I was messaging you over Discord the other day. So they've picked up Risen Eclipse, which was kind of a free agent. He came off of, I think, the old Apex roster.
Correct.
So yeah, Risen Eclipse now kind of, maybe that's a good thing for the team there. They've benched Pornflex down. They still have Lion and Mr. Low in that bot game inside. And yeah, I kind of think that's possibly a good thing for them. Out of retirement, we've said these lads have come through. They're kind of shaking off the cobwebs, and they kind of, getting the hang of Rocket League again, so to speak. And now Risen Eclipse, obviously possibly quite a young, hungry player who came from Apex, moved, and has got very experienced guys next to him, Mr. Low and Lion. And I could imagine it only being a good thing for them.
Well, it's quite a... So yeah, I mean, they couldn't keep out of retirement because Risen Eclipse is very young. And I'm not sure... I mean, so he left Apex, and I understood he was going to be taking a break from Rocket League and joining a roster later. And then 2 weeks later, there's this new roster. So obviously they'd missed the transfer window. So out of retirement has disbanded. They lose all of their points, and they re-enter as the new roster. So exactly the same roster, but Pornflakes moves to the bench. He's subbing. And then the other change is Synergy Gaming, which used to be Meraki. Same roster of Synergy. That's Olympic. I just lost them here. They were here a moment ago. Where the hell is Synergy?
Yeah, so like your
there we go.
And Siphon.
Erratic, also known or formerly known as Komkopi, Siphon, Olympic, and Dragon on the bench. So clearly they've sorted out their issues from the last regional where Erratic couldn't play, Dragon wasn't available, so they had to forfeit, which kind of sucked. So no longer with Meraki as an org, Synergy Gaming. And then the 2 new teams that are in this regional that weren't before are the Goats. Oh, and Bot Gaming, but they're pretty much out of retirement.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we got the Goats. They've come in. Definitely haven't heard of them before, but yeah, we got Evolved Gaming here back again. That's of course Braid and Alf and Chase, kind of old veterans in the scene. Lost Legions, Giants is coming back. They're going to try and make a run at it. Anarchy Gaming, of course, is here with Hammy and the team. And then the rest kind of, it's the old faces, right? Orlando, Bravado, ATKs. So not the biggest switch up between the regionals here, Ryan. And yeah, only really Goats coming in, and just those 2 very small changes between Bot Gaming and Synergy Gaming.
Well, maybe we're now seeing a sort of a solidified top 16, or maybe a solidified top 12 and a bit of room for maneuvering below that. I'm very pleased to see that Barney and his dinosaurs made it back in, as did Unity. These are our young teams, and I really want them to stir things up, and they need to be in the action. So very pleased that they're back. All right, so Muzz, let's go through it group by group. predictions. 4 groups, 16 teams. The top 4 in the top number 1 in each group goes to the top bracket. Second and third go to the lower bracket, and fourth in each group is out of here. So, Group A, Anarchy Gaming, Bot Gaming, Orlando Pirates, and PWB. So, what's your take on that group? Who finishes top 3?
That's an interesting group. That's kind of, I think, the screenshot I sent you as well earlier today, Ryan. That whole group there looks, pretty stacked. You obviously have Orlando Pirates, probably given 3-0, they're gonna come first there. But then the rest, right? It's gonna be such a decent fight for the rest. Because now we've got PWB, which had a really decent showing, Regional 1. We've obviously now got Bot Gaming, and they've picked up Risen Eclipse as well. They looking to fight. But then, of course, we've got Anarchy Gaming as well, which are a commendable team with Hamburger, JTW, and JW. And so, seeing a 4th place and essentially a loser come out of Group A is going to be heartbreaking because, I think just that whole group is so stacked and just everyone's kind of decent in their own right. And so, what have your kind of initial thoughts been? I think that's going to be a tough group to call.
I think it's going to 2, 3, and 4 are going to be tough to call. I think we expect Orlando Pirates to sweep it. They should, but maybe we're living in a time where you can't bank on Orlando Pirates. But we expect them to finish top, and then it's a scrap. Bot Gaming and PWB, as out of retirement, PWB beat them in the lower bracket last regional. But now with Risen Eclipse, it might be a closer call. And then Anarchy, they're okay, so here's my prediction. Orlando Pirates, Bot Gaming, PWB. I think Anarchy are going to fall just short.
Yeah, I kind of want to share that sentiment with you. I feel like PWB showed us how far they can go. They also did really well. Kind of made a really decent lower bracket run. We obviously have Orlando being a given, and then Bot Gaming, I think if Risen Eclipse steps up to the plate and also maybe gets, kind of good advice off of the experienced players on that team, they can do really well. Maybe that group also, Ryan, is a place where we might see a tiebreaker just because of how close everyone can be.
I think that's a good call. So we can expect a tiebreaker there. And then Group B, Bravado, Evolved, Royalty, and the Goats. Now, the Goats are a new team. This is their first regional. And the Goats are all players that I don't know. I don't know if you know any of these guys. Offset, Blizzard, Sub-Zero, and their sub is Shade Elite. I don't know if you know any of these guys.
I feel like Sub-Zero, I've heard of the name, but the rest definitely like kind of unknown for me. So Goats, yeah, definitely. I mean, you know what? They've come this far where they've got a close qualifier spot and they've beat a whole lot of other teams out to make it here. So they're obviously decent in their own right. But yeah, we just don't know them. They're very much kind of the question mark team compared to who's in this group. We've got Bravado versus Royalty Esports. That's a given 1 and 2, I'd imagine. And when you look down and you see that in round 3, Bravado and Royalty play against each other, that's going to be an absolute humdinger of a match.
I'm very keen to see how Royalty stack up against Bravado, because we spoke about in the coming out of the last regional that there seems to be a wide gap now between 1 and 2 and then the rest. But are Royalty still firmly in the DNMK, ATK, Apex sort of scramble, or have they closed the gap? So that's an important game, I think. But I think you're correct. I think we see Bravado coming in first, Royalty second, and then I'm going to call Evolved third, and the Goats go out. But that's based on very little information. I mean, new people keen to see if they can make an impact and cause a bit of a stir, be a fly in the ointment, and bang out Evolved Gaming maybe.
No, yeah, I agree. I think we unfortunately see the Goats finish in 4th there. I mean, when you look at the matches and you see that Evolved and Goats play each other in round 3, but prior to that, Evolved has such a tough time because they have to play them Bravado and they've got Royalty. You'd essentially think those are kind of 2 L's that they take, and then they beat Goats. And then Goats maybe go 0 and 3 through this. So yeah, tough to say. Obviously, I think these, the competition's getting a little stiffer between everyone here in the region. But yeah, probably Goats to finish last there.
We will know more on Saturday morning.
Yeah, very true.
Okay, Group C, ATK, Giants, Synergy Gaming, and Unity. Now, Synergy a bit unknown. I mean, they forfeited the last round. It's Olympic. There's good players, Olympic, Comcopy, or Erratic. But I don't know if they are Olympic known as a bit of a fiery character. So I don't know how their synergy, not to pun on the name, what their synergy is going to be like as a team.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. Unfortunately, Erratic there was suffering with the power outage, and then I think, the sub wasn't around on the day to jump in, and so they obviously had the big forfeit, kind of didn't even play one series last regional, and so we do not really know how this team plays and kind of can match up against other teams. And now their group is kind of quite a big one when you look, they've got ATK, Giants, and Unity. But at the same time, Group C does not, in my opinion, look that stacked as A and B. You got Giants and you got Unity. Unity are putting up a decent fight, but they're the young team. And Lost Legion Giants, for me, just hasn't really been the most consistent team. Yeah, they've had kind of okay finishes, but if you look at kind of already Regional 1, they immediately lost in lower bracket round 1 against Royalty, and that went 3-0. So they kind of get those placements where they earn a little bit of points, but it's nothing significant. And so for me, Group C kind of ends up being maybe, in inverted commas, the weakest of the groups. Like ATK should be able to finish first there quite comfortably. And then if Synergy actually have a decent day, they possibly can come second. But Giants do have kind of a pretty decent roster. We've got Defunct, Rowan, and Sweaty Clarence on that team. And so I kind of foresee Giants and Synergy being the two that have to fight for second place. And like you said, it depends on what Synergy's chemistry looks like and if they are going to play well together.
So give me your call for Group C.
Yeah, ATK first. Very close between Giants and Synergy for kind of second and third. Unity, sadly, fourth, if we kind of have to make a call. Although I want to see Unity cause a big upset because they kind of keep making it back to these regionals. So maybe Unity with a big upset for third.
Yeah, my only concern with Unity is they made life very hard for themselves in the closed qualifier last weekend. In the Swiss stage on Sunday, they had to go 5 series to find their 3 wins. And it was tight. It was pretty close. So I don't know if they're quite ready yet. So yeah, I think my call is similar. ATK at the top. I'm gonna go Giants over Synergy. So ATK, Giants, Synergy, and Unity is my call for Group C.
Yeah, that's about right.
All right, Group D, Apex, Barney and his Dinosaurs, DNMK, and Espionage. All right, give me. I think I've got my predictions on that. But what's your take there?
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have to see, right? Maybe a repeat of Regional 1 where we see DNMK kind of sweep the floor and they're 3-0. Apex as well, they didn't kind of come out as hot as they did during the fall split. But now we've swapped out Unity with Barney and his Dinosaurs. So now it's kind of almost maybe, the easier choice to say Barney and his Dinosaurs end up placing 4th, just because Group D is pretty stacked. If DNMK have been putting in the hours they have been putting in, they should finish first again. Then it's, second and third kind of fight between Team Espionage and Apex. I think, Christian W, they were waiting for Christian W to kind of get used to the team and maybe just because he was benching and now he's in the main roster. So maybe Apex to kind of finish second and beat out Team Espionage, but we'd have to see how that goes. But probably a DNMK first place and then maybe between Apex or Team Espionage, and then poor Barney and his Dinosaurs to finish last.
Yeah, so DNMK, I had a chat with Echo today, and it seems like they've been putting in a lot more time on team training, which was for me an element which was clearly the individual grinding you can see, but that dynamic as a team may be a bit lacking. They've put some time in on that, so maybe they'll be better. I mean, listen, they 3-0'd it last round, so I expect them to do the same. Apex must be a little bit disappointed. They've had a roster change, so that is a factor with Christian W coming in. But given they would want to have done a lot better, and I think they're going to fight a lot harder. Team Espionage, up until last regional, a bit of an unknown for me. I hadn't heard of these guys, but they did fairly well, finishing in Group D last time as well, finishing second, going into the next day. I'm trying to see how they did. I think they lost to PWB, so I think Apex can beat them, and I think they'll be looking to do that. So my call would be DNMK, Apex, Espionage, and Barney and his Dinosaurs. And I hope they keep grinding. I mean, these kids are like 15 years old, so they've just got to soak up as much experience here as possible. And I expect, maybe the next regional, they make it through group stage. But yeah, my call is that they're going to just fall short in this round.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree there. I think it's going to be tough. Team, like you said, Team Espionage, a little unknown, but the players kind of have been on the scene. Parthenax being Ramranch, and then Septa and Meliodas. So they've been around, had a decent showing of lost Regional 1's Group D. And then Apex, let's see if they gel in a bit more this time. And then, yeah, Barney and his Dinosaurs. I mean, you know what? For youngsters to be playing up against such decent competition and to actually be in the RLCS as like 16-year-olds is incredible. So for both them and Unity, they are kind of learning so quickly, I think, through this, because the competition is extremely high. And so this is not kind of just scrimming. This is beyond scrimming. They are getting such crazy important match information and practice that I feel like these kids are just growing exponentially at this point. You'd hope so.
Oh, absolutely. Now, okay, so let's ignore the messy middle of Saturday and go to Sunday. Who for you finishes in the top 4? And then we'll close off with who we think wins the whole thing. But who's your top 4 come Sunday?
Top 4 come Sunday. I mean, I guess easy one would have to be XD. So Pirates XD go through. I guess Bravado as well, definitely, if they don't have a decent run, maybe even beaten out XD again, who knows? Well, that would be interesting to see if they can do it kind of back to back. Then, kind of 3rd and 4th now in this region is getting a little tougher to see, because ATK lost time, kind of slipping up just a little bit. And, Royalty Esports having such a phenomenal run with the fact that they could reverse sweep ATK and beat out DNMK 4-2. They finished 3rd, right? And that's kind of already their best placing for a team that wasn't in yet. The players are old, the team wasn't there yet. So incredibly tough to call. But yeah, your Bravado's there with your XDs there. And then it's either, I'm gonna fill 2 spots with 3 teams here, because this is what it looks like. You either then have to fill it with your ATKs, your Royalty Esports, or your DNMK. And that's kind of what a top 5 looks like for Sub-Saharan Africa right now.
Yeah, I think my big concern is ATK. They had a wonderful start in the last split, but I think they got a little fortunate because of some weird seeding and some forfeits. The way the early rounds worked out, Pirates and Bravado landed up facing each other in semifinals rather than the final, which allowed ATK to make successive finals, or 2 finals within that split, which gave them excellent ranking. They were second, at the end of that. But now if Bravado and Orlando are meeting each other in the final, where that's happening, ATK are struggling, and I think they'll be massively disappointed. They didn't make top 4 last time, and that was in large measure because of Royalty coming in and spoiling the party. So it's very messy around there. So I do think the top 4 come Sunday for me. Orlando, Bravado, DNMK, and then I think I'm going to call Royalty. So it's going to be a pretty similar looking Sunday for my money on Sunday than to what we had the last regional.
Yeah, you know what happened in that fall split is that the Swiss stage is very unforgiving, right? So you get a very awkward Swiss stage. You can 3-0 and get the best place in, or like you're mentioning previously, you can get kind of 5 rounds just to make it through, and then you kind of get a real kind of crappy group in. And like you said, we initially in the first regional saw Bravado play XD, and then it was like, okay, cool, that's basically our final, but early on, and it just was such a mess. And like you said, ATK took advantage of that. They finished second. After that, they finished second again. So they've had really decent points after that. And last regional with Bravado, obviously winning the whole pot. They managed to leapfrog ATK because they obviously
Mm,
got those big points finally. And I guess maybe as the regionals go, Ryan, because that's the best part. There's like another kind of 5 regionals still to go. Are we maybe gonna see kind of everything filtering out? And the best of the best are going to be at the top, and we're going to see kind of the sediment, fall down to the bottom a bit, and maybe ATK ends up being kind of a 4th and 5th place type of team, and maybe
yeah.
that's where they're going to hang around unless something drastic happens for them, or they, who knows, right?
Well, we'll be better placed after the 3rd regional to make a call on that. So moving
Yeah.
to Sunday, the final. That's a Orlando Pirates, Bravado Gaming. Does Bravado take down Orlando again? Yes or no? I mean, this is. I just don't know anymore. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, this was easy. Now, I don't know.
I feel like it would be awesome to see it. I feel like, as the region's been growing, we've seen obviously Pirates XD just be a dominating team for the last 4 years, right? And Bravado's been on the fringes with those players that we know are in that team. And to die for, obviously only 16 now, he's much younger even then. I think like it's time for Bravado to step up. I think even if it's like a bracket reset, with XD coming from like a lower bracket, if that happens to happen, then I think Bravado can win again. I think there's just
Okay.
hungriness on that team. I think to die for is absolutely he's almost peaking now.
Yes.
And maybe he's so young, and to peak then is not the best of things, but he's definitely peaking now. He's supported by such a strong team around him, with obviously Daisy and Happy Meal, and yeah, I could see Bravado winning again.
All right. Well, I don't know if I'm ready to bet against Orlando Pirates.
No,
But
sure.
this is going to be very telling to see how they bounce back from that defeat. Mentally, in my chats to them, they seemed fairly philosophical about it, but let's see. So I'm going to call Orlando. So that's where we kind of differ. So you reckon Bravado, I reckon Orlando. We will chat again Sunday night, Muzz, and we'll know if all our pontificating here had any meaning whatsoever.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be tough. One kind of thing I want to bring up here that I really like, right? Royalty last regional had to play XD through the groups, all of that. Now they've got Bravado through groups, and maybe they even find them in a lower bracket or upper bracket. When it's kind of stone sharpens stone or iron sharpens iron situation.
Yes,
Royalty Esports are getting that right now. They
yes.
were getting hella sharp versus XD, and they are gonna become even sharper when you have to play Bravado. And so I feel like Royalty Esports, they are having the best time with these regionals because they're playing such stiff competition that they are like they can only grow at this point, and they're going to be growing throughout.
I do think they have the potential to be the dark horse that comes and upsets everything, and have a blinder of a run and land up in the finals. Who they sacrifice along the way, I wouldn't know, and I don't put a huge amount of money on it, but I have the feeling that there's that potential.
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree, and I think we need to just watch this space. I think Royalty Esports might, they're going to be doing some things for us that are going to be phenomenal as we kind of go through the regionals.
All right, cool. Well, then a couple other things I wanted to run through quickly outside of the predictions. So I don't know if you saw, but all the regional winners got their titles from Psionic. So they got those glowing blue regional champion titles, which is awesome. And I've never wanted anything out of this game so badly as a RLCS caster title. I don't even know if that's a thing. I don't know what would have to be done to get that, but my word, Muzz, I want that title more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. It looks super sick. Did you see the guys that got like the Discord heroes as well? Which also looks really interesting. So I don't know if those are like head admins or who's picking up those, but they've got
Oh
Discord
wow.
hero, yeah, as a title, which was really sick. Then, like you said, the kind of the RLCS regional winners and the runners up is super sick. So it's nice. It's kind of like your Super Bowl ring. People are kind of flaunting what they've done, which is awesome. And yeah, RLCS Costa. Maybe we can suggest that to Psionics and they can hook us up.
We'll see how that goes. And then interesting. Actually, you tweeted this out from the RL. what's the account? It's RL Stats.
Oh yes.
They tweeted out their rankings, or based on stats out of the last out of the winter split, out of the last regional. And what surprises me are the names of. Okay, so we have To Die For at the top. That makes sense. Top ranked, and that makes sense given the fact that Bravado won the entire thing. But then Friction was number 2 with Apex, but they didn't have a great run. They finished top 8, and then Defunct at 3. Who Defunct is? Is he Team
on Lost
Espionage?
Legions.
As he Lost Legions, correct. Number 3, Eliakim, whom that makes sense with royalty. Werty, ATK, who've been having a bad run. Daisy at number 6 for Bravado. And then Archeon, Bread, Snowy, and Mr. Low. So Snowy, Orlando Pirates, the only Orlando Pirates player to feature in the top 10, which is surprising. And Mr. Low for Out of Retirement.
Yeah. It's interesting because you kind of like you said, you bring up these stats and they track in scoring and goals and assists, and like you say, who's getting overall ratings, and you see kind of second Friction and then Defunct, and you kind of look at the team and you say, okay, but Lost Legions kind of didn't make it to this spot. But these players are obviously kind of popping off maybe in the group stages. They're playing kind of teams where they're milking it. Lost Legions were playing against teams like ATK and Evolved Gaming and the such, and so. Defunct can come third. Maybe he's kind of the stalwart of his team, and they seem to be, he's the one that's going to fit the ball and is doing the work there. I like him, like you said, maybe no surprises. To see, your first Pirates XD player only come in at number 9, and like Friction, Defunct, and Eliakim are second, third, and fourth, and you don't see like a Darth or Skill still there. That is kind of quite surprising because, maybe what's kind of happening what's happening there, and how do they accumulate their points?
All right, and then the last thing I just want to touch on, we got the announcement this morning that there's load shedding all weekend, which might just put a complete spanner in the works of all the predicting we've just done, because I don't know what plans all the players have and the schedules, but there's a strong possibility of a couple of teams forfeiting because they're just simply unable to play.
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna kind of be the biggest problems with trying to run esports out of sub-Saharan Africa, and what kind of maybe our international production team is gonna be annoyed with is that we have load shedding and it's gonna affect teams, players, and ourselves.
For all the non-South Africans who get to listen to this, one of the gifts from our corrupt government is a poor infrastructure with electricity. So we go through periods when we are given the gift where every South African gets to be without power for 2 to 4 hours a day. It's rotational blackouts, and that was announced this morning, going on throughout the week until Monday. So that's likely to have an impact on how this regional plays out. Hopefully not too bad. I know a bunch of players have made plans with generators and backup power, so hopefully at least the top teams aren't too impacted. But Muzz, there we go. That's our prediction. It's 2 days away. Regional 2. We're flying through these, but I think it's going to be our closest and most interesting yet.
Yeah, I think these teams are going to come absolutely hungry. Hopefully we get a nice, good showing from last regional, and it's going to be good stuff. I think everyone is definitely pumped up.
All right. Well, that's from me, Greybeard and Muzz. Peace.